We're going to go to the phones. First call is Homedale, New Jersey. Hello.
Hi. I have to say, the height of audacity on you to say that people that went to work deserve to die because of what you believe. You sound exactly, you are a mirror image of what you just described Osama bin Laden to be. You are as low, and you wrote about Jerry Falwell, you sound just like him. And to say that you went to a Catholic school and were brought up by Catholics, I don't even believe you, because no Catholic sounds like you.
Mr. D'Souza.
Oh, boy. Well, look, on the Falwell business, it's true that after 9/11, Falwell made this, I think, very wrong statement. He said, this is God's punishment for America's sins. And in a sense, he was, you can say, blaming America for 9/11. He was saying that there was divine retribution, perhaps in the manner that some people say, you know, God's punishing the world for AIDS or something. This is not my view. I think God's purposes in the world are inscrutable. I'm not asking that question. I'm asking a different question. Why did the guys who did 9/11 do it? Now, this question is, you know, right after 9/11, there was this gorgeous moment of national unity. The whole country came together. And at that time, nobody wanted to think about this. You basically, you know, was just, let's just find the guys who did this and annihilate them. And I felt that way, too. I wrote a book, What's So Great About America, which is a celebration of America. What's particularly ironic about some of the people criticizing me, you know, this man doesn't like America, this man is in league with bin Laden, and so on. This is the greatest foolishness. I wouldn't have left my family and the world I love to come to this country. I've made a life here that I could never have made anywhere else. So I love America. On the other hand, 5 years after 9/11, it is not unintelligent to say, let's look a little critically at how all that happened. Now, I mentioned earlier the roots about the Carter business. There's something I need to mention about the 1990s. After the Cold War ended, the leading Islamic radicals, bin Laden, al-Zawahiri, and so on, all went back to their home countries. Bin Laden went back to Saudi Arabia. Al-Zawahiri went back to Egypt. They were fighting to overthrow what they called the near enemy, which is their own governments. They saw their own secular rulers as the adversary. They wanted to establish Muslim holy law in their world. But then they made a very fateful decision in the 1990s to shift strategy and attack what they called the far enemy, which is the United States. The question no one has asked is why? Why would you shift from the near enemy, which is your direct problem, to the United States? Now, bin Laden gives the answer. He says, I had two reasons. Number one, I realized the far enemy, America, was propping up the near enemy. Who's keeping Musharraf in power in Pakistan, or Mubarak in Egypt, or Abdullah in Jordan? It's the United States. The little Satan is being held up by the great Satan. But the second reason is, he said, you know, contrary to what everyone thinks, the sole superpower, America, is not so tough. He says, we, the Muslims, discovered this when we fought the Soviet Union. We discovered the Soviet Union wasn't so tough. And he said, and so maybe this United States, for all its bluster, is weak. It's cowardly. If you kick it in the shins, it will turn around and run. And so in the 1990s, the radical Muslims launched a whole bunch of test strikes against America. They tried to bomb the World Trade Center in 93. They attacked our Khobar Towers facility in Saudi Arabia in 95. They bombed our embassies in East Africa. They attacked the USS Cole. Each time the United States government, and this was the Clinton administration, did little or nothing. At one time, Clinton had a perfunctory response, but it was ineffective. And so this confirmed bin Laden in his suspicion of American weakness and cowardice. And he says himself, he says, I was emboldened, one may say, to envision or to think about, to conceive a much grander strike which is the one we got on 9/11. So this book is looking at sensitive issues, but you can see I'm trying to do it in a way grounded in politics, grounded in history, and yet I have to confront this kind of attack that is sort of implying that here I am with my prayer rug, you know, in bed with bin Laden. It's the most ludicrous thing, but it has become a real blinder in having the kind of debate that a country needs to have to try to understand where it came from and how do we go from here.
Corning, New York, hello.
Yes, I have a statement and then a question to ask the author. The first thing is, I think that religion has been used in the wrong context. I mean, there's always a faction of any religion, whether it's Muslim, Christians, or Jews. You're always going to have a faction that's going to be radical, or however you want to define them. And I think, unfortunately, what happens is people think that all Muslims are characterized as terrorists, or, you know, and that's not the case. Most Muslims are law-abiding citizens, and they, you know, go according to their tenets of faith, just like Christians and Jews. And so it's too bad that religion is kind of used in generic terms, so to speak. My question is, how much do you think that this plays in with the argument, and what can we do to try to change people to realize that, you know, that not everybody is a radical just because we label people, so to speak?
Well, I agree completely with the premise of your question, and in fact, I have been fighting some of my fellow conservatives who are very well-meaning, but who derive from the rhetoric of radical Islam and from the sort of Quranic citations of the radical Muslims, the idea that the entire Muslim world is this way, and in fact has been this way since the time of Muhammad. There's all kinds of idiocy out there that basically blames Muhammad as the founder of modern terrorism. Now look, if I had not grown up in a different part of the world, if I had not grown up among Muslims, in fact, the bottom floor of our house was rented by a Muslim family, if I hadn't seen these people up close, I might not have realized what you say to be true, which is that traditional Muslims are very similar in their morality and their outlook to traditional Jews and traditional Christians. Now, the reason this is very important is that I do think that radical Islam has been gaining traction, gaining strength, virtually across the Muslim world. You see it not just in the Middle East, but you see it in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in India, in Turkey. Even today, if you go on a progressive American campus, say Berkeley or Yale, you see a very extraordinary sight. You will see Muslim girls wearing the headscarf. And these are women who are the daughters of venture capitalists and lawyers and doctors, and you would not have seen this 20 years ago. So what I'm getting at here is this. I don't see how we can win the war on terror without driving a wedge between radical Islam and traditional Islam. It doesn't matter if we kill 1,000 radicals if 10,000 traditional Muslims join up the next day. We have been losing traditional Muslims to radical Islam, and every time we attack Islam, we only compound that problem, because if you go around attacking Muhammad or the Quran, you're going to push the traditional Muslim into the radical camp. Now look, Islam has been around for 1,300 years. No one denies that it was conquest-oriented and quite mercenary in its early days. But the truth of it is, Islam has been around for more than a millennium, and radical Islam has been around for a few decades. So I think it's simply wrong to blame Islam itself as the problem. On the contrary, I think we should be finding ways to wean away the traditional Muslims from the radical camp.
In one of your recommendations,